Ah, right. So, hello everyone, and thank you so much for coming along. I'm Kelly Davis, and I'm the North Cumbria Stanza rep. We were delighted when Kate Noakes and Kaycee Hill contacted us to say they were coming up to Cumbria on a retreat and they would like to read for us while they were up here. There wasn't time to organise an in-person reading, but we usually meet on Zoom in any case, and a virtual reading was the obvious solution. We're going to start by hearing poems from three members of our stanza group. Jackie Risman sadly had to drop out at the last minute. Then I will introduce Kate, who will read for about 20 minutes. Then we'll have a 10-minute break from about 7:35 to 7:45. Then we'll hear poems from four more stanza members. Then I'll introduce Kaycee, who will do a 20-minute reading, and then we'll have a 10-minute Q&A before we finish at about 8:30. So please stay on mute throughout unless you're reading, but it's fine to unmute at the end of the first half and the second half to applaud. And it's also fine to put comments in the chat. And please feel free to put web links in the chat. I'll save it at the end and circulate it to everyone who's attended the event. So our first reader tonight is Jackie Bullman. So if you'd like to go ahead, Jackie.
Okay. Everybody can hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, I'd like to read just a prose poem that comes from my new collection, Lost and Found in Pockets, that's coming out next March with Cinnamon Press. And this prose poem is about trying to remember words that we used for things when I was growing up on a terrace street in Great Harwood near Accrington in Lancashire. Um, so here we go. And it's called Jumping Gate Gaps. I'm struggling to spell the word we used for the big flat stones on top of the outside loos and coal stores in our backyards. So I ring Mum and she can't spell it either, and it doesn't seem to be in my dictionary. So Mum says, try the letter Q, and I do, and I find the word kite, which it says is the stone cover on top of dolmen, which I also look up, discovering these are megalithic tombs. That really makes me smile because it just fits. And I wonder if that's how we got the name in our Lancashire towns for the stones on top of our outhouses, like boundary turrets for our walled yards, where me and my brother would jump back gate gaps to leap one to another, or sit on one with a magnifying glass in summer and try to melt tar, or some boys beetles or flies, and how it really could have been a tomb we sat on top of, a place not tame, kind of halfway between. A chamber where Nana kept newspaper squares on a string or eyes alpacks by the pot toilet with a long pull chain. And she'd use it every day, ignore the new bathroom upstairs. And the word kite made us feel good even then. Tribal. Thank you. I'll mute now.
That was
Thank
lovely.
you.
Lovely, Jackie. Thank you. And I think we've got Susan next. I'm going to put your website in the chat, Jackie. Yeah. Oh, you've lost sound, have you, Susan? Um, okay. Well, can we have Elizabeth next? And then hopefully you can unmute, Susan, and read yours after Elizabeth.
Right, well, excuse me, I'll make a start with one short one from my pamphlet in the shape of men. Can everybody hear me before
Yeah.
I stop? That's great. We made the heads of styrofoam so not to be too heavy on their frail necks. Hearts simply fashioned from lumps of stone, arms, legs, bent sticks. Torsos were fabricated from chicken wire and some kind of pliable fabric, enough to hold it all together, give them a plausible sense of form. We didn't make them too clever after what happened last time. And as a contrast, a more recent poem, which I have run by the Stanza group, so I hope it's going to be acceptable. It's The Big Green Flask. Every day you were up before everyone, summer or winter, spring or autumn. Whatever it did that day, rain, shine, snow, you'd be ready. I'd hear the radio in the kitchen, chirpy local station. Then the kettle's low rumble, like your voice muttering. You talk to yourself sometimes under your breath. What did you do that for? Now, there's a thing. You'd boil a full kettle for your big green flask. Make sweet black tea. Enough for the day. Enough to see you through the long, hard day. Thank you.
Lovely. Yeah. Um, Susan, have we got Susan? Maybe not. Um, Poe, would you
Yeah,
mind reading yours?
no, that's fine.
Uh,
Am I loud enough? Can you hear
yeah.
me? Yeah. This is from my first pamphlet, which I haven't looked at for ages, so it was a treat to choose it. This is a poem having a go at myself, and it's all true, and it's me being very judgmental with preconceived ideas about meeting somebody in the supermarket and having to change my mind. And the poem is written in the voice of the person who I was judging. So it's her speaking to me or to you. The poem's called Basking Shark. I'm all mouth, a mega mouth, an over confider. I want to tell you everything. I want to talk. I hunt in supermarkets, bask in surface warmth, and feed on conversation. I have a bag of apples and a packet of biscuits, and a woman tells me to go first. I don't have much, but I'm not in a hurry, and I've nowhere to go. She steps back from my drabness and unwashed hair and looks at me as though my brain's no bigger than a peach. You can pay for these if you like, and I hold my shopping over her trolley. There's panic in her eyes, and I reel her in. She's in overdrive. She thinks she should pay. She knows she could. She'd hardly notice it. But then maybe I do this all the time and it's begging, really. But she thinks she should, and I have her. I tell her I'm a real polygarter, no better than I should be, and isn't life a terrible thing, thank God? And she gets the reference, and off we go on Dylan Thomas, touch on Heaney, Motion, O'Donoghue. And I tell her about Marcus Aurelius advising us to avoid talkativeness, but that I think that's rubbish advice, and I can talk to an empty bus seat if there's no one there to fill it. I tell her I'm a megamouth, and she could swim inside and out again if I could keep it open long enough, or I could swallow her whole.
Poe, just tell me the name of your pamphlet so I can type it in the chat.
Yeah, it's Image Junkie.
Sorry, what was that?
Image Junkie.
Image Junkie, great.
Yeah.
And was that Whaley?
Wayleave, yeah, but they're sold out. I
Ah,
don't have any left, and I don't think Mike does either.
right. Oh well. Um, okay, so I think Susan, perhaps you can read in the second half instead. So we'll go on now to hear Kate. Kate Noakes has published 8 collections of poetry and a pamphlet, most recently Gold Hawk Road, um, Two Rivers Press, 2023, and Chalking the Pavement, Broken Sleep Books, 2024. Of Welsh heritage, she has a PhD in creative writing from the University of Reading. That's just a very brief biog, and Kate, I hope you'll tell us a bit more along the way as you do your reading.
Thank you. First of all, thank you all for coming, and thank you all for inviting us to the Cumbria Stanza. Great. It's really nice to hear people from other parts of the country who we would never get to hear you read otherwise. So that's really fantastic. Thank you so much for having us. We're honoured. So I'm going to read from Goldhawk Road, which came out, as you said, in nearly 3 years ago now. And this book is about coming back to London, having lived in Paris for 6 years. Well, sort of on and off. I came back and forth quite a lot. As sort of one of those long distance commuters between Paris and London. And that's what this book is really about. So there's a lot of London-y poems in there, and there's France and Paris-y poems. So we have some of those. And then there's other things that I write about quite a lot, which is nature and art and just traveling to different places in general, which in my life I've been very fortunate, and I've lived in different parts of the world and I've traveled a lot, so I've enjoyed different places. So I'm going to just read you some of these. It's quite a long book. It's about, there must be 80 odd pages of poems. So I'll just read you some, and some of them are very long. And if they're long, I'm not going to do what one poet did once at a reading I went to, she said, I'm just going to read 2 poems. So you knew you were in for trouble. So I won't do that to you. I shall read you bits of long poems so that you get the gist. But first of all, perhaps I'll introduce myself, which the first poem in the book does. It's called Flat Home, Steep Home. And I shall explain to you, because we're not near where this is. These 2 islands are in the River Severn, in the wide estuary that sweeps out to the sea. And they're both nature reserves. And one is managed by Wales and the other one is managed by England. So Flat Home, Steep Home. Too Welsh for the English, too English for the Welsh. Sometimes it seems I should make my home in the middle of the Severn estuary, with oozings and miles of mud, to be drowned twice a day in a brisk tide as punishment or reminder that I am too English for the Welsh, too Welsh for the English. But I am all oyster catcher and sand eel, stunted grass and thrift, flat-topped and steep-sided on my island home sanctuaries come prisons, places reserved for those who are too Welsh for the English, too English for the Welsh, where all kinds of gull call and cry but cannot teach me the anthem's words. I am wild peony and golden samphire, buck's plantain and wild leeks, snaked about by slow worms, blue in their markings like the sea. I am cranesbill and trefoil, stonecrop and rock lavender, all the colours of land and sky, yet still too English for the Welsh, too Welsh for the English. And thank you. When my sister read that poem, when I gave her a copy of the book, she went, yes, quite. So there we are. There's a coming back to London poem. It's called Each Night in Jasmine Sleep. 1. She dreams of Goldhawk Road, knowing she's home when anyone speaks and she understands every word. Smelling old tar on the tube steps where no one takes her bag. Passing the corner barber packed with dudes having weekend buzz cuts. Noting the taxi sign offering school rans, and pushing open the front door against a paper mountain, takeaway flyers, 2 bills, 1 card. 2. and dreams of Christina Rossetti at the opera. Carmen, she thinks. She looks a little fierce. But before the curtain, she asks if she's right about the goblins and the girls. Christina gives her a wink, smiles, taps the side of her nose with her long index finger. Its nail flecked with white. Calcium deficiency or surfeit. She can never recall. 5. She dreams herself as an Art Deco cinema, curved on the horizontal, straight on the vertical, clean lining King Street. Once fashion's nadir, sleek, sharp, even edgy. She's had hundreds of pictures on show. Now they want something with plusher seats, more popcorn and slush. She's tired and boarded up. Budlier seeds her facade in odd places. Air vents bleed rust from their corners. She's not weeping for anyone. 7. Dreams a song of praise for the road sweepers of Hammersmith and Fulham. Hallelujah for your dawn bravado, sporting neon so highly visible. Hurrah for your proud selection of lurid green brooms. Hooray for your cheerfulness faced with pavement pizzas. Hail your corner diligence for cellophane and fag butts. All hail your tolerance of foxes, should know better kids, and grown men too far in their cups to care. 10. And she dreams she's a young woman on the tube, reading and eating a golden delicious, who twice a day between Portobello Road and Ladbroke Grove unburies herself and looks up from her phone, eyes fixed wide on the ruin of Grenfell, the tower that can't be, won't be covered up. Gets all serious at the end, quite rightly. I believe the current plan is to tear down the tower, which is fraught, I think, but it's unsafe. So 2 sexy little poems just to change the mood a bit. One is from a painting, but I'm not going to tell you which one. I write quite a lot from art, but I generally tend not to tell people where I got it from. So this is called I Am Nothing Like Domestic. When my neighbour kisses me, I often forget the surprising third, the cheeky one that says, I'm Dutch. After, Jan tells me he misses real chowder, cumin seeded in a green rind, cinnamon biscuits at Christmas time, dark wheat beer, and the thin light in a vast cloud sky. That's why his good wife plants tulips, wax lips to blaze and crazy their river garden in spring on days when I don't cut the privet, leave it for nesting birds. Did I say he's fond of swan's down? Handed over the hedge, my reward's a bunch of scarlet. It burlesques my kitchen table. Petals flash black triangles as lifted skirts. Pollen teases the oilskin cloth. While I was writing this book, there was a book published called Growing Up for Boys, which had some, you might remember this, it had some very unfortunate things to say about the teenage female body. So, and the book was objected to and quickly withdrawn. But in the meantime, I caught the poem. Growing Up for Boys. The morning I wake and find I'm growing a pair of attractive boobs is the day I spend lingering in lingerie, fingering lace, silk and ribbons in all the colours I can think, and new collection ones I can't, choosing finally, and after much argument with Mum, supported by the tape measure lady, the balcony. A tough construction of white with steel underwiring, a fine proportioned vista over Verona, where my twin Juliets can run out just so far under the sun and stars, seeking as many cameramen as can be crossed in an easterly facing courtyard, who pap them, tag them, post them. It is also available in whip crack black. Right. Enough sexiness. Couple of nature poems. I was staying in Rabness, which is in Essex. It's just on the border of Essex and Suffolk, where the River Stour goes out into the North Sea. And a friend of mine has a sort of beach hut place there, and we were staying there. And it was pouring with rain one afternoon. I thought, what on earth are we going to do? Stuck in this hut, can't do anything, can't go out, sink a boat out, can't do a thing. And on his shelf, he had all his ladybird nature books from the 1950s. So I started flicking through them and helped myself. This is entirely a found poem. This is called Old Nature Writing. The curlew gets its name from its call, which you must have often heard on the radio. The linnet's call is rather like someone playing the banjo. If you throw a stone in the sedges at night, all the sedge warblers will sing back at you. The great tit makes a call that sounds like a squeaky bicycle pump. The tree sparrow is fond of a juicy spider. Jays are also fond of green peas. The kingfisher lines its nest with fish bones, which smell dreadfully. The puffin spends much time standing outside its nesting hole, looking serious. The goldcrest weighs the same as an envelope and half a sheet of notepaper. Cuckoos do no harm to plants. Jackdaws are easy to tame and can be taught to talk. Grass snakes make good pets. At first they are wild, but soon settle down and can be handled safely. The wild cat is the most savage of British animals, and no one has ever been able to keep one as a proper pet. The partridge is not easy to shoot. No one should ever kill owls. They are much too useful. Hilarious, isn't it? we certainly don't write like that anymore, and certainly not for children. So, a winter walk on Hampstead Heath. Bird, bird. In the winter that has hardly been, except for warm torrential rain from nowhere, catkins already dust the wood with sulphur and green. I walk the muddy path with birds, a roundelay of long-tailed and great tits, and robins feast on fat needle buds of beech. Ahead, a call breaks the silence. Bird, bird. A small woman hand feeds a crow and a pair of jays. Bird, bird. She waits for me to pass and flashes me a bright blue look as the birds retreat for a moment high in a young oak. I find a more venerable tree to talk to, pressing my hand against its ridged trunk, and my ear as close as it's possible to go. It tells me it's tired and stressed and needs the cold to sleep, that its sap is too keen, its gold leaves coming too soon. So, do a bit of traveling now. So we're going to go to New Orleans, and then we're going to go to France, and then we'll come back to London. This poem's a very long title. It doesn't make a lot of sense unless I tell you it's the title of a geography textbook. So it's called Earth surface sediment transport. The trouble with having a geography teacher for a mother is the way she forecasts disaster. So there's scarcely a spot on the planet it's safe for me to visit. Last year, I was crushed by a skyscraper in a Japanese earthquake, 7.8. And before that, I was overcome by volcanic mud in Costa Rica and burnt in the Californian forests. I've caught dengue fever, West Nile virus, and malaria all at once. Years ago, I lost limbs to great whites and Miami alligators. My latest announcement, New Orleans, next February, has her imagining me delta drowned and floating out into the Gulf, clutching Mardi Gras beads. Suffice to say, my mother absolutely hates that poem, but luckily she's not on this Zoom call, so we're good. This is what really happened in New Orleans. Voodoo to cast away pain and devastation. What you looking for, girl? What you wish? See your doll now. Their eyes were once living, small clamshells, tiny bird bones, a softness in their stuffed bodies. Not the dead glass beady and hard biscuit of a toy. And raggedy, they might be scary, but their gaze doesn't seem to follow me around the store. Best not meddle with what you don't understand. Why are you sad? Your man treat you mean? In a world where not everything or hardly anything is for the good, you can just write it down, pin it on, meditate before it all turns dark, so very, very dark, before the lightning of tonight's storm stings you in the hard rain as if you were helpless again. So when I lived in Paris, it was during the last, well, it was, I came back to London in 2017, so it was that 6 years, at first a decade ago, where some bad things happened, as I can remind you. There's auto-portrait as France. 1. We thought we'd never get used to staying in after the Bataclan. We missed our friends, cafes, shops, the scenes of a busy city, the school bell, delivery drivers, fresh coffee, the first lungful of second-hand smoke. But in time, sweetbread and the etiquette of cramped tables receded. We still made supermarket runs, or rather our youngest and fleetest did. Mostly, we hunkered down, in touch on the remaining wires, exploring each other's company. We made careful negotiations between privacy and conviviality. We slept when we liked, had time to talk, reminisce, but not plan. Precious little point. Save how to scratch supper from scant pickings. Tea we knew last for years, honey, centuries. Fresh milk became novelty. News was passed window to window, a telegraph of rumour and confusion. We distrusted it all. 3. A cappella on the metro, she hesitates into song, her voice broken. She eases her throat open for Fête de la Musique, till the notes come clean and clear as wind over ice fields. She melts iPods, floods the carriage with pure sound, drowns station announcers, and overwhelms the underbreath hymns of my neighbour. I cannot sing. So how could I channel a living if it was me holding out the box purse? I could warble abuse, like the wrecked man at Bastille, who, when not watering the tiles, pauses near exit 8, downing beer and shouting, "Our duty, him alive." Or I could stand like the wave-worn granny at La Défense, buoyed up by her shopping trolley, silent but rewarded for being there, come day, come rain, come shine. 5. The figs are not ripe, yet they fall on warm courtyard stone in their dozens. She counts some 84 one evening, mid-July. Perhaps I should have said that last part of that poem refers to the terrorist attack in Nice along the Promenade des Anglais. Okay, leave you with something a bit more cheerful than that poem. Right. So all you need to know is what ikebana is if you don't know what it is. So I shall tell you in case you don't. It's the Japanese art of flower arranging. So waiting for ikebana, Mayfair. Shop assistants at the perfumery, de père en fils depuis 1760, are so bored they spend most of their time dousing themselves in precious and pricey scent. Well-heeled ladies take lifetimes choosing precipitous shoes. The footwear consultant on a fag break cradles a white china mug and totters the pavement in evening sandals. Every boutique has a security guard. Early November, and already Christmas decorations bling the street. The restaurant's standard bay trees are baubled in tasteful oranges and pinks. Outdoor heaters release pyramids of fire. A preened young man shows off his grooming on video chat. Sunday morning sunny, and I am waiting to do precise things with flowers. I know we are living in the end of days. Still, there is art. Thank you for listening.
Let's unmute and give Kate a real clap because that was fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very much.
So we'll have a 10-minute break now and come back for the second half. Thank you so much. You can. Okay, so I'm going to kick off the second half with this poem is going to appear in a pamphlet to be published by Palewell Press at the end of April. It's called Portrait of My Father as a Snail. That's the pamphlet title. And this is a central poem in it, which I actually wrote a long time ago. Conversation with my father. You once told me about a show you'd seen. A troupe of deaf-blind actors made bread on stage, sitting at a long table with bowls of flour, adding water, sugar, salt, yeast, mixing, kneading, telling their stories while the bread baked, then offering the loaves to those who watched. And as you spoke, tears filled your eyes and mine until you could no longer speak. We thought of those actors in their dark, silent world, feeding the audience with something more than bread. And we wept for the silence between us, for the words never said. That poem, the show that's mentioned in it was a real show that toured around the world with a company of deaf-blind actors, and it was called Not by Bread Alone, an extraordinary show. I think there are still some videos of it online. So thank you. And now I'll hand over to Susan.
Hello, I'm going to read my poem from the pamphlet that we're all waiting for, that will be coming out in September through Stone and Thread. We're starting to get the textile illustrations in now, so it's all very exciting. So I'm going to read the one poem I've got in it, called Hailaging. "He came in the neat," the old man said, looking out of the window of his converted outbuilding bungalow. His son's husband clapped the French bulldog's back, her duggy underside waiting for pups. "Who came?" he asked as the bulldog writhed. "The Hailager," he said, and nodded to the field where plastic hornless buffalo stood. His son was opening the barn, the space being readied for that authentic family farming experience. Yet the old man was still known as Farmer Jackson, despite not having farmed for 20 years or more. He kept a small patch of lawn outside the bungalow, jealously wild, with weeds, or what the West Coast bard would have as flowers, and dancing grasses, punkish herbs, and dots of colour, looking for all the world like a forgotten strip. He remembered the crackle and rustle of hay. He remembered the scent of warm grasses, remembered the jip of silage with its strong note of fermentation, remembered the creak and squeak of forgotten stems underfoot, remembered brothers and cousins appearing on hot days as everyone was taken from lessons and pressed to work. Jugs of barley water, heels of bread. "You know, one time a lassie was bit by an adder in that field. She died soon after." "When was that?" "Ages since, can't remember." A polite circle of surprise as he held the bulldog tighter. Farmer Jackson faced the bales, but did not see them. "Aye, that Hailager lad came in the neat. One lad, one machine, a few hours, done." On the table, circular and low, the silky cover faded in the creases from 80 Augusts, stood the photos of his brothers, rimed with dust, the last photos of great-nephews in his tractor, and one corn dolly, grey with age, as brittle as his bones. Thank you.
Antoinette, would you like to go next?
Thank you. And thanks, Susan, for that poem. It was great. It's lovely to hear it again. So my poem is called Ice and Shadow, and it remembers or recalls Rotterdam in the Netherlands in the winter of 1940, seen both through my mother's memories and my own of her telling her stories about the war and just before the war. Ice and Shadow, Rotterdam, winter 1940. I see my mother's shadow under ice. She could not see her shadow, but the ice was a thin barrier between her shadow and her hurtling body. I feel her skates hiss across her shadow. She felt them too, but could not see her shadow fluttering beneath her in the cold, still water. She flings her small body into the distance across the stilled water, sensing her warmth hissing across the water. Water turned solid so it could bear her. She throws her young body into the distance, not seeing the shadows stretch beneath her as she skates through early morning, her satchel on her shoulder, the school bell ringing, her 12-year-old body and the future singing, ears ringing with fire frost, the air tingling and ringing with her school friends' laughter, a flush of mind and body, the play of ice and pelting snow, laughter as skates right the stiff sheet of water, laughter suppressed as they unbuckle skates and sling them over shoulders, body tamed and entering shadow in the schoolroom, a nun intoning French verbs, avoiding German, 5 months before the bombs fall, and her childhood turns to ice. Thank you.
Incredible poem, that, Antoinette. Kerry, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. So this poem was written in response to a wonderful book I read called The Lost Garden of Lothrig, which is a garden I remember as a child. For the love of a fellside. Imagine a spring day drawing out possibilities, the newness of life. Sisters in long skirts digging tangled ground, breaking bones and loam wild with bracken and rock on this south-facing slope. Then the building of an enclosure to protect plants from deer and sheep. Long ago, this affair, before my mother walked me up a sweeping track to be wrapped in scented blooms, nurtured from seedlings, cuttings, discoveries posted from wildest China. Primula podomii for stars, gentian for sky, viburnum for fragrance. Treasures arriving each week in packages, perennials for sun, for shade, to be planted in harmony. A garden with a view to the Langdale Pikes, and air once breathed, never left your lungs, and cool damp mist rising from the river Brathay, in mornings reluctant to let go the night. All this, what it was to be here, the guardians waking each day to 7 acres of crag, knowing your heart and hands belong to this patch of earth. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to hear from Kaycee Hill, who has an MA in creative writing from the University of Bristol. She won the inaugural James Berry Poetry Prize in 2023, and her debut collection, Hot Sauce, was published by Blood Axe later that year. Sound system culture and sonic inheritance form the foundation of her current work, which examines themes of connection and community. Kaycee is a 2025 Eric Gregory Award winner. So congratulations on that, Kaycee, and we're really looking forward to hearing you tonight.
Thank you so much. And it's been great hearing everyone's wonderful poems. And yeah, thank you for letting us read, and really happy to be here. So I will be reading from my debut collection, Hot Sauce. And, you know, I wrote this a little while ago now, but I definitely feel like it is both a beginning and a continuation of kind of writing sort of coming of age poems. So many of the poems that I was writing at the time, I was either, you know, in my early 20s or reflecting on times kind of even before then, in my younger years and my teenage years. And it is somewhat of an archive of memory, kind of first times, underground scenes, the female body as well. And I'm very drawn to urban eco poetics. So there's some of that in there. But I think, yeah, I'll start at the beginning. I'll start with the first poem in the collection, which is a love poem for my partner Tyrone, who we've been together since we were 14, and we're turning 30 now. So it's kind of, that was the, you know, in terms of first times, that was the start, I suppose. And this poem is called Muse. I'm overpowered by desire, and it's all Aphrodite's fault. Sappho, translated by Josephine Balmer. From my bedroom window, I turn to standing stone, solidifying the image like a painter or a thief. I watch you step off into blackness, study your hands gloved, fluorescent, busying the wheel, feeling, along its scuffed teeth, then pausing, where the fingers know what they know, used to probing the skins of peaches. Inside the dark, which dares to call itself morning, I catch your almond head, half enwrapped by a surgical mask. Then off you go, helmeted, camouflaged, except for the bike light blinking, off on, off on, off on, pulsing out of the depths like plasma, and the formation of your profile gone soon after, swallowed up by the street's unlatched jaw. I hope that you are warm. My dressing gown still preserves your shape. And from our bed, as I fold in on myself, outside glints saffron yellow, lit by electrical sentries. Yeah. Naturalist. I check if my head is still attached to my neck, if my heart still beats, if any teeth have let go, unfastened from sockets, ground to powder, fusion of rapture and ache in equal measure. First comes sting, bliss soon after, eyes roaming the cryptic dark of a just surfaced fantasy. Below, Genuine's pony mounts the subwoofer. Chip shop vinegar cartwheels up the stairs. I feel like I've been initiated into new territories. Like I could dip my fingers in the odd blotch staining the mattress and paint myself with it, bound through the village, a howling thing. A robin chimes outside. I see her bright red breast, the thumping heart of a young, naked ash tree. So the next piece I'm going to read draws deeply from my relationship with my mother and our shared Caribbean heritage. And when I wrote this poem, I was thinking a lot about how kind of the women in my family, and I'm sure this applies to every family, have had to adapt and transform in the many roles undertaken in their life. And this poem is called Shapeshift. My mother's brown lifelines track across the sand of her palms, languidly joining like barking gulls in the place where secrets are formed or the wind speaks. There's a face, a woman's, a graveyard of trees or nipples pointing to Hades, dozing her stomach like roasted papayas, and a map with clear rivers, their shells softly turning just to feel the sun close. This place is ancient as comb jelly, where the spawning ground dances with ideas in new combinations. A waltz for mourning, snaking hips at war, or the mambo in love. Excavate the clag, the clot, make a bright star from stone and from the mountains and the moors. Push yourself into the valley of ghosts. It's like the moon cracking herself open. It's like jiving bees. A woman in the shape of a beast in the shape of a woman. Dreams of home. Bare bottles of tonic wine line the windowsill. Goes down too damn easy, he says, like medicine. His voice lagging, thickening to cherry syrup. Homesickness is a symptom of displacement, separation, and meditation on our foundations. Ah, Jamaica. He travels there in a boat of smoke. Me soon come, me soon come. Figures or spirits swim throughout the brain grey of his eyelids, where everything is in a state of becoming. And when my grandfather, the innate sailor, reaches the shore, he moors himself to a small black sun. Souls break open among ripened mangoes and black-billed parrots, the root aroma of yam shucked back, disclosing all that yellow flesh. Still, Jamaica pains him like a new bruise pressed. And over there, on glaring white sand, his young love picking out her dreadlocks with a limestone comb. He roams barefoot, reaches an ackee tree budding golden rings and reams of trawl net baked into bones. Jar, free my skin, free my mind, my body. Below, a colossal canopy of yellow, black, and green. A boy with my grandfather's face sleeps soundly, harvesting mislaid memories like queen conch pearls. So the next poem I'm going to read is actually, I think it's probably my favorite poem in the collection. And it's kind of one of those family stories that, much like music, is kind of passed down and inherited. So when my mum was a schoolgirl, my extremely conservative Welsh great grandma had brought her a brand new pair of Clark's shoes. And my mum hated them so much that she scuffed them all the way down the wall during her walk home. And I was always really struck by how kind of in this small way, that was an act of resistance. And this poem is called Scuffing. I picture my mother at 11 years old, bow-legged, pint-sized, confined in her uniform, eyes weary even then, pulled in at the corners, cast in hickory flecked with gold, the same shade Diana Ross and the Supremes wore on the cover of Cream of the Crop, shook those hips in. Gappy teeth, freckled cheeks, walking home from school, dragging new Clarks against Sal Magundy brick, their leather-cracked cry trailing behind, like the music of a cabasa made from gourd, like bay leaves laughing, rice and peas boiling. I see her enjoying the scuffing, reveling in its wrongness, the desecration of shoes so dismally British, so hideous, mouth flung open to the sky, arm to the back teeth with glee and remembering that pot of kiwi black polish under the sink that'll slide over the damage like shea butter. I see her playing out the trouble she'd be in, hearing it like an echo in an aluminium can. Great Nanny's voice rearing up over the ruins, the crime scene, then simmering down to a tiny puff of steam because she's 11, grown, a god. So before Bristol, I was living in Southampton. Sorry, 1 second. I've just got to get my charger because my laptop. Thank you. Yeah, so before I moved to Bristol, I was living in Southampton. And I was a domiciliary carer and support worker for around 6 years. My mum's a carer, my sister's a carer. I come from a long line of carers. And it taught me so much, and it really informed my poetry and kind of having these portraits of people. And I actually loved the job a lot, but it was time for me to kind of move on to something else. And it was really difficult to leave. And I kind of I needed to get that ending in here. So this comes at a kind of pivotal moment in the collection. And this poem is called Last Shift at St. Wynn's. You laugh as I hold out my hands, my blue plastic wrapped fingers, and try a few aimless notes, vowels bouncing all around us, a mirage of floating faces reflected in white tile. You look over me with your small, ripe eyes, those ruinous black pupils, creased lids pulsing like you're trying to say something. I'm listening, but I'm still unable to decode the message. And you cup your wilting hands into ramekins, one for each of us, as if to say, I know you see me, I see you too. I haven't kept my eye on the time. Am I doing okay for time? Okay, so a slightly longer poem here, which is probably, it's not too long, but it's probably one of the longest ones in the collection. And I don't actually read that all too often because I think I was at a different place in my life, kind of physically, mentally, when I wrote it, but so I didn't read it out very often. But now I've kind of had some distance from it. Now I do quite like reading it and kind of seeing how far I've come from that point. And this poem is called Blessed. Over breakfast, the devil came to me, belching sulfur all over my porridge. Big bristled hooves, forked tongue, 3 blinding breasts, heavy, round the shade of cough candy twists. She offered me a one-eyed lamb's head, tight-lipped clamshells, a box of tampons. Her nipples cracked into a map of Southampton, leaked honey, melted the cutlery. She squeezed the flaming teat into an antique goblet, mixed it with tears, then slid it across the table, drink me etched into its base. She tasted sweet, like girlhood, peppered with a musk I had tasted before. My first experience with death when play died, finding used needles buried inside window ledges, red inside white cotton, smeared up the middle like roadkill. Her flavor frenzied every bud like ants spewing wings, taking flight. I felt 100 hymens breaking like bird skulls, hips tumescent and generous as the ocean, the smell of golden Virginia, baked tarmac, lemon shaken vac, the taste of Parma violets, crayons, microwaved milk. Through this mirage, I saw mountains of bubblegum taffeta, clear princess tiara gems, Anne Frank's diary, dog-eared, hair stuffed into Bic razors, and my first big girl bedroom. Care Bears stood to attention as I entered, all white tummies, fat and full. And my old rocking horse restored to glory, exactly how I kept her with the bridle removed. A box stood in the nucleus of the room. Inside smelt like pencil shavings, lilies. Stay here forever, the devil said, braiding my hair with a coarse paw as the goblet topped itself up. I took a sip, kneaded into her lap, and let sleep take me. Locusts fell from her cheeks. The sun labored a look. Thank you. So go from a long one to a really short one. And this poem is called Self-Care. Lowering in, I notice my fleshy parts transforming under audacious heat, pink and slick like wild salmon. A hot spring forms in my navel, cloudy rosaries tack to my nipples like microscopic freshwater pearls. Here I can fasten a nightingale's hymn into a poem, defy fears that have opened like night blooms, closing only when daylight breaks in. I think of him, and my insides groove like a lava lamp. Limb by limb, the world pulls itself together again. No more, no more shall I speak of my geographies. And I think one more. I think I'll do, yeah, I think I've got one more to read from here. So this is Makeshift, and it's the last poem in the collection. And this was kind of when I could enter the Young Poets Network competitions. Yeah, this was part of the kind of the Sylvia Plath competition, and I wrote this during, I think it was either during the first or second lockdown, when we were all just, I feel like, going crazy with crafting and making things and just trying to find things to do. And yeah, so this poem is called Makeshift. At first, you were just an empty grape punnet, stacked with the recycling. Lightweight, but weatherproof. A thing that would last longer than me, long after me, and the medley of birds commandeering our apple tree. I found an old flower crown from some forgotten summer, snipped it in the center and looped it through the middle holes, where 7 mauve peonies arched like a sickle, settling into newfound shape. Then came the wait, a rickle of robin feed, safflower seeds orange dappled by the sun nosing its way into my kitchen, raisins puckered to a leathery polyp, other pips, nuts, seeds that I cannot name, and a number of freeze-dried mealworms, favorite of the songbirds, turning with each step. No longer just an empty, filmy body, but a body of matter transient as water, behind my hands carrying you out into the garden and up to the tree, hooking you over the severed branch, the stumped limb, which seemed to enjoy such adornments. From this vantage point, over grey mud forming my birthmark's likeness, over sleeping larvae molting their former selves, I watch you, my new relic, being rocked by circling winds carried over from God knows where. In a patch of red sun, a bumblebee tries out your infertile flowers. A blue tit twitches, belly full. More have come to gather now, to cling to you, unfettered. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Let's all unmute and give Kaycee a round of applause. That was amazing.
Thank you.
And I thought perhaps we could just have a little Q&A now. If are there any questions from anyone in the audience? I've got a couple, but do any of you want to ask anything first to Kate or Kaycee? Well, perhaps either one of you, if maybe you could tell us a little bit about Braid Poetry, this poetry collective that you have in Bristol. Sounds really interesting. So, can you just tell us how it works, what happens?
Shall I do it? Okay. So Kaycee and I met, when I not really quickly after I came to Bristol, and we just decided that we would put together some kind of performance group, and with another poet called Naomi Madlock, who is also in Bristol. And what we do is we work out themed readings. So we've done 3 so far. The first one was a flight. So we, as you probably heard, there's actually between us we write a lot of poems, somewhat unintentionally, about birds, but they appear. So that we did a whole show about flight, and then the next one was about music, which picked up on Kaycee's Sonic Inheritance project, and then the rest of us kind of put our music poems in around that. And then the third show that we developed this year, we've just put it all together, is about bodies of water. So we like to have we try and get our poems into some kind of show that lasts for half an hour, 40 minutes, something like that. And all the poems just chime off each other. And it's not like you have 3 separate poets reading. We're very much weaving our voices together. So we take it in turn,
braiding them, as you will.
Braiding, as it were, exactly, braiding, as it were. And then we ask people not to clap in between. So we try and have this kind of mesmerizing thing that happens for half an hour or 40 minutes. And it's people love it, actually. It's really quite successful. People enjoy listening to it. And and that's what we do. And then we've done that at various places, where various kind of poetry reading nights. So far we've done several, and we're being in Exeter at the end of April, and then I don't know, people ask us to come and do things, so we do it. That's one element of Braid. So it's the fun of putting together the show, deciding which poems, which chimes off what. And then we also run our own poetry night. Not very often. It's sort of, none of us want to sign up to doing something monthly. It's too much commitment. But we, perhaps quarterly or something like that, we put on an open mic night where you'll get a little bit of Braid. You'll get a short version of one of our shows for about 15 minutes. Tons of open mic. And then we always have guest poets as well. So we'll have 2 guest poets reading somewhere in some dodgy pub somewhere in Bristol. No, it's actually not that dodgy. It's a very nice pub. And we don't charge people for that, but we send the hat round, and all the money goes to our guest poets, because we think our guest poets should be paid. So that's what we do. That's the two bits of Braid. We may develop out into other things. We may do workshops. We may do, I don't know, whatever. We've only been going for, is it a year? Yeah, it's only a year since we've been doing this. So that's Braid.
Sounds really good. Is there quite a lively poetry scene in Bristol then? Do quite a lot of people come to poetry events there?
Yeah, Bristol is very lively. Incredible poets.
Your sound's gone a bit strange. I think maybe it's clashing with Kate's sound.
What's happened? Has Kaycee lost Kaycee's sound?
Sorry.
Okay. No, I mean,
turn the volume down on your laptop. Okay. Is that better?
Yes. Yeah, it just sounded very sort of loud and crackly suddenly.
Is it still crackly?
No, now it's okay, I think.
Okay. But yeah, Bristol poetry scene is amazing. We have team events every month, every week. There's always something going on. Of course, we've got Bristol City Poets. So yeah, and kind of in Bristol, we take poetry very seriously. And there's something for everyone. We've got a big kind of like the stuff that we write, a big spoken word scene, and lots of things in between. So if you ever want to come down to Bristol, and come for some readings, that'd be great. Welcome you both times.
We also have a great poetry festival every year called the Lyra Festival.
Ah, right.
Which you might have heard of.
Where is that in Bristol itself?
Yes, it is. It's in the city centre. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean they have they have big name poets come along, and then there's sort of all sorts of um, smaller events. There's lots of quite interesting discussion events. There's always a slam because there's a big spoken word element. And actually, another brave thing for this year is that we are leading a poetry walk around part of Bristol, where actually, luckily, lots of poets and writers of the past happen to live. And we're going to be reading some of our poems, some of their poems, and doing a kind of poetry walk thing as part of the Lyra Festival this
That
year.
sounds brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Lots of poetry happening in Bristol.
Anyone else got any questions?
Yeah, what do you think?
No. Well, in that case, I think it's just, time to say a huge thank you to both of you. It's been a really enjoyable reading. And I think it's great. One of the things I love about poetry at the moment is that it's such a community, and we have quite a good community in Cumbria, but it's particularly nice when we can, network even outside Cumbria. So yeah, I hope this will be the first of other such meetings.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thank you again so much, Kelly, for having us, and everybody for listening. It's been
It's
terrific, and we are very much enjoying our week in Cumbria. It's I just pray to God it doesn't rain every single day. Who knows?
yes.
But
Well,
who knows? But
thank
yeah,
you.
thank you for having us. It's been lovely.
Yeah, thank you again. I'm going to save the chat and I'll send that round to everyone. And yeah, then I'll close the meeting. Um, and thanks again to all of you for coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye. I hope I've saved it.